So our first learning objective together will be establishing a common language inclusive of various factors that contribute to trauma based on each individual's view of their experience, including historical trauma and systemic racism. Oops. So I've heard about this for years. I realized that I had white privilege and I hadn't even heard those words before, which shocks me now as I reflect back. So that's how conditioned I was in colonization. And when I found out about white privilege in 2005, I went on a passionate quest to become so much more well-informed of my privilege as a white person, my unearned privilege as a white person, and my opportunities to become an ally and an accomplice. So when Dr. Alonzo Plow is a chief data officer with Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and he isn't the only one that we know that racism is a social construct. 0% of it is biological. 0. It's 100% a social construct. And so Linnaeus, who is dubbed the father of modern taxonomy, he turned human beings into species. And that became the basis for scientific racism, which is still, it doesn't take too far to look around us, is still living and breathing in every area that we are. The next slide, it's tough to read. It's his work. I'd like to spend like 30 seconds on it and hopefully all of you can see the screen. If any of you can't, let me know. I will read it out loud. It's a hard read. It may outrage you. I know it does me. It hurts to read it. So I thought we could just do this in silence, please, unless you'd like me to read something. Is it okay if I transition to the next slide? People like a little more time?
A little more time, please.
Okay, absolutely.
I have a question. What year was this?
Well, what year did he do it? Linnaeus, he did it in 1758.
1758. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen this.
Right, John, right.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and the link on both of those slides are right to that report from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They are one of the, like California Endowment here in California. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is fantastic with trying to decolonize and dismantle all this. But yeah, it's hard to read. It hurts.
I'm sorry, this was observed again in what time frame?
This is in 1758.
1758, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I'm still alive today. Okay, if I move on. Okay, perfect. So what is systemic racism? This is one of the videos that were shared with you to view. We won't be watching any of the videos. I just wanted you all to have a placeover on how they flow through the slide deck. So when we speak about systemic racism, we can look at that internalized oppression, internalized racism, interpersonal with relationships, structures, cross-sector and a socio-ecological model, institutions, which are the bigger agencies, et cetera, and then individually, where we can have our hidden bias, our unconscious bias. These are some of the different aspects. So we have to look at this holistic whole picture if we're talking about dismantling systemic racism. 200 people up in LA when I was traveling pre-COVID at a trauma-informed event. We asked them, what's the community trauma? And they had Post-it notes on their seats and they wrote down what they were. And then Devika Shankar created this word cloud, and we know in word clouds, any words that are bigger are many more people are responding to the same thing. So this is a representation of some of the youth, maybe all of the youth, and families that you're blessed to serve with Boys to Men mentoring. And that, so thereby our opportunity to really humanize our spaces together with each other, that co-care with each other, really helping our families, because I know City Heights is a community organizer and mentoring a lot of children, youth, and families over the years. Many of them had so many of these that was their normal. We look at the history of our young nation, and that started with the doctrine of discovery, and that still has been used even in the 2000s. And it's absolutely ridiculous, because what the doctrine of discovery states is where that flag puts, that's who owns it. And we know the Native Americans have been here for over 10,000 years. This still exists today. Written into our Constitution, Native Americans are literally written as merciless Indian savages. Women aren't mentioned one time in our Constitution. This is a video that you were asked to watch, please. And when Dr. Vincent Folletti, the co-principal investigator of the ACE study, introduced me to Dr. Anthony R. Pico, the Viejas Band of Kumeyaay Indians, Dr. Pico was a chairman for 26 years, and a chairman with a tribal nation or tribal council is like a top chief, like Sitting Bull. And so that was April 2017. And in that process of moving at the speed of trust, being very aware of my whiteness, and trust takes time, as we all know, trust takes time. I learned then, and I cried every day for a long time, because I'm on the Warrior Spirit family leadership team to this day, and we put together a 3-day calling upon the Warrior Spirit to heal historical trauma, hosted at Viejas in October 2018. And when I learned what this video clip is about, that the first governor in California became a state in 1850, Peter Burnett is the first governor in California from a slave-owning family. And he said in an address to legislature, we shall wage a war of extermination between the two races until the Indian race becomes extinct, and held propaganda and town hall meetings up and down California at a time when gold rush and settlers were making an average of 25 cents a day, that if they brought in the scalp or the head of a Native American man, they'd be paid $5. The scalp or the head of a Native American woman, $2.50. The scalp or the head of a Native American child, $1. The federal government reimbursed California over $1 million. And I only learned that in 2017. So this video clip speaks to that reality of the genocide in California. This is a picture I took down in Old Town. These are Kumeyaay children that are in the mission system, and I took a magnifying glass over it one day, and there's not one child that is smiling in there. So, this is deep-rooted. All the land that we stand on in our young nation has been impacted by the dominant culture and white supremacy. Boarding schools, we know the horrific things that have happened in boarding schools. I've had some tribal friends now that have told me that some of their ancestors were taken from San Diego County, and the children were at St. Carlisle boarding school, which is all the way in Pennsylvania. So if you think, just the reality of boarding schools alone, and we all know what's happened up in Canada with finding so many unmarked graves. And so this intergenerational trauma, historical trauma, is living within the epigenetics of all of these individuals. When Governor Newsom apologized for the genocide and slaughter of Native Americans in California and said he wants truth-telling and public education. Fortunately, I work for an educational network, and we do this work. These kind of truths are absolutely woven in, because I'm one of the trainers. And so that leaves me really uplifted and hopeful that one educational network in California, we have 65,000 students in California, is doing the truth telling. And I'll be reaching back out to Tam and Franco, because got an email back. I reached out to Assembly Member James Ramos' office today. He's the first Native American elected legislation in California, and that was only 2018. He authored Assembly Bill 1703, which is a law. However, it's not funded or mandated, so it's just a piece of paper. So we've been working closely with his office, Dr. Pico, my colleagues, and I, and now he authored. So Assembly Bill 1703 is a law, says that local tribes partner with public schools, charter schools, county offices of ed to rewrite history up and down California, truth telling, which is really exciting and desperately needed. And then now he authored AB 1821, which changes suggested to do that to mandated to do that. So we're inching towards decolonizing public education in California. So once I get the draft letter of support that I wrote back from Assemblymember Ramos's office, I'll be doing a wide reach. I'm trying to get more. We need millions of people to help ignite this tipping point. And then we know this young nation was built on the backs of enslaved African Americans, and we know all the horrors of what has happened and continues to happen today, the Jim Crow laws, and so that's a whole other layer of, the land was stolen from Native Americans, and then the corporations, the capital came from the backs of the slaves. And we can see that the growth of cotton, the sugar plantations, all of those were the free labor by enslavement. And I was uplifted. My daughters are obviously long out of college and all that, but I was uplifted seeing that Scholastic, which is for children and youth, is starting to do this truth telling also. So there's pockets of truth telling that absolutely are weaving around our nation. The 3/5 compromise, that was where that particular slave states, that person would only be counted as 3/5 of a human being before the control of the Electoral College. This was the government recruited Chinese to come here and help build the Transcontinental Railroad. After the railroad was finished, they launched the first public immigration law, Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, to kick them all out. So use them for the labor, and then they're excluded. This was the first silent movie shown in the White House, The Birth of a Nation, and it was a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan by President Woodrow Wilson. So I had grandparents that were alive at this time frame, and I have thought about them a handful of times of the propaganda of how they would see these posters and wherever they were posted. And that was from the lens, looking through the eyes of somebody who has white privilege. I can't imagine my friends that are of color, how that must have been for their grandparents and their loved ones to see the Klansmen. And so there was a resurgence of, I believe it was over 200,000 new Ku Klux Klan. So it kind of reinvigorated the Ku Klux Klan, the birth of the nation, shown at the White House. The Japanese prison camps, I no longer say internment. I've learned too much about them. So when Pearl Harbor was bombed, the government issued the Executive Order 9066, and I have very close friends of Japanese descent that their grandparents, their uncles, loved ones were interred in California in these prison camps, and she had shared with me that the guns weren't on the outside to keep the guns were down on the Japanese prisoners in these camps. And I learned from a professor at San Diego State who also had loved ones in Japanese prison camps in California, that her family told her, and she showed a picture. I mean, it was just staggering to me. It was a big, long, flat, outdoor, about probably 10 feet long by 4 feet wide, with holes in it every so often on the ground. On the ground. That's where everybody went to the bathroom. whether you were 85, 2, 1, no privacy, outdoors, I mean, the deprivation and the dehumanization, when I first heard it, I cried. Just couldn't imagine. So that's in my friend's epigenetics and her DNA of her family history. The school to deportation pipeline, we're all very, very aware of that, especially being an international border community, the whole school to deportation pipeline. We all know very well about the privatization of the prison industry and preschool to prison pipeline. Years ago, Dr. Robert Ross, for 11 years, I was a commissioner on the City of San Diego Commission on Gang Prevention and Intervention. And one of those years we had, definitely pre-COVID, we had a big gang summit at the University of San Diego. And Dr. Robert Ross, who's the CEO of the California Endowment, read verbatim. I wish I had a copy of it. He read verbatim a letter that he said he has hanging in his office up in LA that basically said that we must keep our prisons full of Black and brown people so we can make a profit. Now, that I'm sure many of the youth that you're blessed to mentor have been impacted by juvenile and or criminal justice systems. So Tia Martinez is a friend of mine, and she has a gorgeous Prezi. It takes about 45 minutes to watch it, but it's gorgeous because it's all data driven, where she starts with the preschool to prison pipeline, and then the Prezi start overlapping with all the different things that can help offset, like restorative justice, talking circles, restorative practices, juvenile, a lot of the work that a lot of you are blessed to do. You really are helping these youth and families that have been impacted by the preschool to prison pipeline. This was another video that you watched. It was Step Inside the Circle. It was in February of 2020, right before the pandemic lockdown. And Fritzi Hortzman, who I got to meet virtually about a month or so ago, she had gone to a maximum security prison in Lancaster. And all these gentlemen were outside, and she was in the middle, like she's right there, right in the middle right there. And she has a microphone, and she's asking them the 10 questions of the ACE questionnaire. And anytime they say yes, they're coming closer and closer into the circle. And then there was a brief, like debrief with maybe a dozen of them. And so I love what Dr. Gabor Mate has shared, that the most traumatized people in our society are incarcerated. And I work with a lot of ex-felons and ex-gang members and I've never even been arrested. So they are some of my greatest teachers. And they have shared with me many times that you truly do learn how to become a better criminal on the inside. This was Dr. Johnny Finn. He came to San Diego and did a fabulous So it was a fabulous, and I can share that with you, Franco and Tim, if you'd like me to, on redlining systemic racism across the nation, but really focused on San Diego County. I just wanted to tease out a couple of them. You can see the redlining here. And so this is La Jolla, and in the middle of it, it says, the said property or in a portion thereof shall not be devised, conveyed, or leased by deed or any other way to any person of African descent. And these deeds and covenants still exist. See here, this one said they need to be 100% residents or 100% white. This one says the restricted to the Caucasian race. This is the servants' quarters in La Jolla, being populated with the serving class of whites, Negroes, and Mexicans. Homes show little pride of ownership. The particular area is set aside for common consent for the colored population. And these deeds and covenants, if you watch that video on systemic racism, where it talks about redlining, well, it talks about a lot of things, housing, the property tax, it just talks about a lot of different things, property taxes, redlining. These things still exist. And if you look at the one on the right, which is mostly City Heights, area, you can see the redlining that exists. And this was done by Dr. Johnny Finn and his research assistants. And then you can also see how that has impacted the tree canopy, which is why it is so much hotter in some parts of our inner city that have had historical redlining. And you think even just visually, you think, driving through La Jolla, driving through Del Mar, driving through City Heights, driving through Southeast, and there's not as much trees. This is all an effect from redlining. So our first pair share, please, is going to be share your thoughts and just be just two of you. And ideally, maybe let me do a time check. I want to respect everyone's time. Yeah, so excuse me, Tam, I'm thinking 5 minutes, 2.5 minutes each in a pair share. So if each of you would be so kind, share your thoughts. How do you think systemic racism continues to impact the youth that you are blessed to mentor with Boys to Men Mentoring? And I hope you have a wonderful pair share. We'll come back after 5 minutes. We'll keep on moving through the other three pair share after the other three learning objectives, and then we'll open it up to the whole floor. And I think it's to end at 7:30, and depending on where you live, we want to be respectful of all your time if you're another time zone. So have a wonderful pair share. Looks like
All right, and Dana,
Patrick in room 6, maybe?
yeah, let me move him there. Oh, yeah, I can't move him. He'll have to join on his own. Let me move Frankie then.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe Patrick had to step away or something.
Oh, okay. And how long did you say?
5 minutes, please.
Okay.
So 4 minutes, and then when you click close, it'll take another minute.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for doing that.
of course.
You have a good showing of folks.
Yeah. We had a good number of registrants, so I'm glad that a lot of them showed up.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's such a reflection of the quality, the fidelity, the agency of Boys to Men Mentoring. These are tough topics, and you have people showing up and wanting to have these conversations. So kudos to you and Franco and your leadership, and kudos to your administration or whatever your top leaders are you're called, your CEO. And
thank you. Yeah. I think that because we're having a lot of these difficult conversations day in and day out, that it's important that we get a deeper perspective on what's actually happening, and especially, some of us experience it tangentially. Like for me, I know that the racism is not so difficult or heavy for me because I'm Asian, and in general, Asian people tend to not experience a great deal of like the type of racism that oh, hold on, I don't know what's going on. Let me move. Yeah, so what is going on? There we go. Yeah, and so Asian people tend to experience racism very differently because we're seen as like the model citizen, and so it's it's just a different it's a different thing.
I think there's a documentary I watched a couple years ago. I think it was called The Good Americans, and it was all about Asian being the
Mhm.
model. And I've had some of my Asian friends tell me, because we always have a lot of I like deep conversations,
Mhm.
and they'll say, we were raised, you keep your head down.
Yeah,
You just keep your head down. You
right.
just keep going,
Yeah.
which
And so
which in and of itself is oppression.
yeah, and so we tend not to be heard. We tend not to have a voice, and we tend to, and now there's discrimination in upper education where Asian people are not accepted because they've been over accepted in the past, and
Mm,
so
mm,
they're
mm.
excluding Asian people because you know, they for whatever reason, where, well, education is a really important part of the culture, and so a lot of Asian people get into higher education than some people, and so now they're discriminating against Asian people and excluding Asian people
Mm, mm.
because of that. And that's a problem.
Absolutely. We gotta decolonize everywhere. Seriously,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
we do. I just feel it's the most important work of today's age. And it doesn't matter, to me, it doesn't matter what you call it. You're doing anti-racism work, systemic racism work, historical trauma, whatever you're doing
Mhm.
that's raising awareness and the facts and the truth about that. To me, that's all under decolonization,
Mhm.
every bit of it. So that's my North Star now is decolonization,
Yeah, I think it's vitally important.
which
Um,
again, I honor you and your teams for really wanting to embrace this deep rooted work. Truly,
yeah, thank you.
it's exemplary.
Yeah, I mean, we do our best to engage with the underserved communities and you know, open up opportunities for them to see themselves in the community.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. 20 seconds and all the rooms will close. Oops. I probably could go the next one.
Go 2 times.
Oh, like the Batman Coffee Club, Joshua. Cute.
My son got this for me for Father's Day like
Oh,
years ago.
oh, love it. Heroes. Dad hero cape. You.
Yeah, it says some people don't believe in heroes, but they haven't met my dad.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a meaningful pair share. We'll do whole group share out after three more pair shares. So our second learning objective together is deepening our understanding of epigenetics, microaggressions, and implicit bias. And this is you can visualize, and all of you are welcome this talk. You're all deeply rooted in community. So hopefully I'm giving something that hopefully there's something new that you learn, and certainly affirming and confirming what you're already doing, because you all work. I admire voiced men mentoring profoundly. So when we look at the adverse childhood experiences, please recall that's the largest public health study in our nation, millions of people haven't heard of. We also want to look at it through the adverse community environments, where if you're mentoring a youth that was born in City Heights or Southeast in San Diego, certain other aspects that don't have the access, you can see how they're already born into a community environment that is very challenging for them. And then with the epigenetics, the triangle on the right really lifts up the ACE study. The one for this PD is really lifting up the historical trauma embodiment. So if you look at the blue vertical bar on the right-hand side of the right triangle, you read microaggressions, implicit bias, epigenetics. So that, much like the previous one with the adverse community environment, when we're really looking at the social conditions and the local context of where an individual is born, and then we want to even go deeper and look at, well, what kind of historical trauma, what kind of systems induced trauma, what kind of racism have those families been born into? Because all of that is in the epigenetics. This is from Rise in Richmond, California, who is doing for years now groundbreaking work on liberation and healing, which every aspect of that is decolonization, because it's from dehumanizing to humanizing. And that's why we're here together tonight, is how do we humanize all of our spaces with each other? ACE Interface is the other co-principal investigator of the ACE study, Dr. Robert Onda. It was him and Dr. Vincent Valetti. And this slide from ACE Interface really lifts up the historical trauma, of course, the ACEs, peer and adult. We know the ACE study is only in utero to age 18, and we all know that trauma is absolutely across the lifespan. So WHO, World Health Center, has done a lot of research literally all over the world across the lifespan. So then we see the bubble here of adverse peer and adult experiences, and the epigenetics. The moment that a woman finds out she's pregnant, she has in her epigenetics and her DNA her ancestors, and she's carrying it forward for her children's children's children. And so we look at this adaptation of, hurt people, and hurt people just want to not feel the pain for a moment. So they may do some kind of adaptive behavior that can become maladaptive, and then more risk for intergenerational addiction, substance abuse, etc. We look at this lens of the epigenetics, and you can see the different aspects on here. You've heard of nature versus nurture, and there are markers. It's a really exciting science and research on epigenetics, because we can change, not 100%, not all of them. We can change some of our markers based on our environment, based on our emotional well-being, based on what we eat, based on if we have consistent exercise. And so there's ways that we can improve ourselves, which is why epigenetics is such an imperative part of PACES science, because when we know better, we do better. And there's so much that we can do, micro steps. We'd never have more than this moment our whole life. If you've read the book Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, you never have more than this moment and then this moment. So what can we do in this moment? If I'm activated, what can I do in this moment to ground myself and optimize my well-being? And so this was one of the videos that you watched. This was the hidden bias that, I don't know what I don't know. And that's why I really want to be culturally humble everywhere I am, and show up as a learner and listen to understand another's experiences. And so, and we all have bias. I mean, that's just part of being a human being. So we are human-centered, we are heart-centered, and you're helping professionals, I'm a helping professional. The more mindful that we can be moment by moment of our own self-awareness and our self-reflection, we can transform ourselves and create that co-care with who we work with on behalf of who we serve. And then this is 19 unconscious bias examples. If you're interested in clicking on that one, talking a little bit more about, we all learn. I grew up, I went to 5 one-room schoolhouses. There was so much truth that I did not learn. But that's what I grew up in. That was my culture. And so now that I'm well on the other side of that, of really understanding how so much of this is systemic by design, I have to every day use my unearned privilege to do anything I can to spark a conversation, to take action, to be an ally, to be an accomplice, to be a co-conspirator, and do my part as a white person that represents the dominant culture. This was another video you were asked to watch. It was implicit bias defined, and we need relationships. There's a slide coming up. We need relationships. Neurologically, we are wired. We need each other. We are harmed in relationships. We are healed through relationships. So any kind of experience that you have as a helping professional, a mentor with these amazing youth that you're blessed to serve is so important. And I think it just shifted. For a long time, the second leading cause of death, ages 10 to 24, was suicide completion. I just saw recently, I should double check. I saw recently that it became the first, but I need to do the research behind that. But think about it, 10 years old is fifth grade. That fifth grader did not have one trusted adult in their life, and ending their life and ending the pain was their solution. So for each of you here, I honor you. I admire all of you. I really admire Boys to Men Mentoring and everything that you stand for. Bless you truly for what you do, helping all of these amazing youth and their families. So we're going to go into our second pair share, and it could be, Tam, if it'd be okay, 4 minutes, and then there'll be a minute before the room will close. So please share an aspect with each other in your pair share of your deepened understanding of epigenetics. Probably have heard of it before. Maybe tonight may have been the first time, but just even that little glimpse of an understanding that the moment a female finds out she's pregnant, that's already within her DNA. So it's already part of it. And then possibly how our implicit hidden biases may impact how we view others, and have a very meaningful breakout. Looks like 3 rooms have 1 person. And now, let's see.
Albert, are you able to jump to your breakout room?
It'd be room 2, Mr. Reed.
There we go.
Okay.
And I think John, I'm going to switch John to a different room.
Oh, bless your heart. Now, I think I remember hearing last time, are you starting a new program, Girls to Women
No,
Mentoring?
that is, I think that one's in Virginia. I'm not
Oh,
entirely
got it.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. So right now we're mainly focused on boys and growing the community that we have. And our goal is to get into all of the schools in San Diego County.
If you want a letter of reference, email me.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So
Seriously.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We're currently in all of the middle schools in the El Cajon School District, and we're working our way into 6 more continuation schools that are part of another system of a total of 20 continuation schools. So there's one that's going to be a pilot program for us, and then that'll get us into the other 5.
Nice.
And then there, hopefully we'll be able to get into the other 20. So
Nice.
yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Now, do you know Anthony Seha at the San Diego County Office of Education?
I do not.
Okay, I've known him for years. I learned a lot. He has a new title, which is pretty cool. He's worked there for years, probably easily 25. Let me look him up. Wonderful person. And just because he's at the San Diego County Office of Ed, he could be a powerful. Okay, he's senior manager, whole child community design department, San Diego County Office of Education.
Yeah, if you could send that to Franco,
Okay.
he is that would be more in his
Wheelhouse.
wheelhouse. Yeah.
Okay. So intro Franco to Anthony Seha. Okay. I don't know if I shared with you last time we were together or one of our planning meetings. Had I shared that I and a colleague are managing 7 counties in California that align with 5 other counties in the California Collective Impact Cooperative of Communities Decolonization Model?
No, I did not hear about that.
May I have permission to add you to the listserv, the master
Yeah.
listserv, so at a minimum you'd be in the know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love
Do you
that.
think Franco,
Oh,
I don't want you to
absolutely. Yes.
speak? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
yes. Please
Okay.
include Franco. Yeah, anything that that you send to me, I would also
Send to
send.
him. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to get a doodle poll out to the different leaders of the 12 counties yet this week
Mhm.
to see when they can meet. I'd like to make this meeting still happen, if at all possible, by the end of March or
Mhm.
very beginning of May with everyone.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start with the leaders because, boy, if I send out a doodle poll to over 150 people, that might be a little bit of a nightmare
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to figure out
It's
a
a little
meeting
bit.
time. So,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
start with the leaders.
yeah.
People will join if they can. And yeah, it's really hopeful. I'm so outraged by the pain that my tax dollars, our tax dollars perpetuate every day.
Mhm.
And I know I'm part of this equity focused solutions.
Yeah,
You don't have to look too far to see who's drinking the Kool-Aid.
yeah. It's a shame. Oh, Dan's by himself all of a sudden.
Oh
Mhm.
no.
We'll send him to another group.
Oh, good. He's with Franco. That's wonderful. Oh, Franco and Frankie.
Yeah, the Franks.
Yeah, the
So we
Franks.
have a Franco, a Frankie, and a Francisco. So those are the Franks.
Oh, that's what they're called, the Franks.
Well,
Love
that's
it.
what I call them.
Yeah, yeah.
And every
Now,
time
where
that
are
we,
you? Are you virtual or are you in a physical space
I am. What do you mean by?
for when you work?
Oh, when I
You
work, I am both, and so um I'll typically I'm always when we're sitting in groups, it's always in person, and so when I'm training the facilitators, then that's done in person. But for these workshops, those are done virtually.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
I do a
it's kind of
combination
nice
of both.
being hybrid, huh?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it gives me a lot more flexibility, so I can,
A
and
lot more
especially,
productivity.
yeah, and on top of that, with these workshops, there's more engagement because people are able to make it because they, some can't drive that that time of night, and it just wouldn't be safe to drive back, or it would interfere with other duties or whatever it might be. It
Hmm.
just makes it a lot more flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, I have found, I was working virtual long before the pandemic and then definitely working 100%, lockdown.
Mhm.
And I I love it. I get so much work done. I don't have to spend the gas and the time and
Mhm.
traffic, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice.
And then it's wonderful when you do something in person.
Mhm.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Looks like we're
Well,
all here. I think so. So we'll start our third, creating safety, acknowledging experiences, and building resilience. And this is what every one of you are doing every time you're meeting with one of the beautiful youth that you're blessed to mentor. You're creating a culture of safety, trust, and connectedness. And this is Dr. Christina Bethel. Her research team at Johns Hopkins University have released in March of 2019 the Positive Childhood Experiences, PCE research, which is only 7 questions. And only 2 of those questions are about an individual. Everything else is about community. Did you have non-parental adults? Did you have trusted people in the community? So everyone here is a key indicator in the positive childhood experiences that these youth are being blessed by knowing you. And so what Dr. Bethel and a research team proved is you are the medicine. Neurologically, we are born wired to connect with each other. Social isolation, especially with elders, I read a lot of research about that. People literally die from isolation, and certainly what I mentioned earlier about the suicide completion ages 10 to 24, not having one trusted adult in their life. So when a child is born, when an infant, and they have those safe, stable, nurturing relationships, that is how they enhance their SEL, their social emotional development. And that's through positive health, protective factors, and building resilient muscles. And so the decolonization is an aspect of a public health model. And this relates to you as an individual. And you can see how when you're relatable, when you're affirming, when you're challenging current norms, my heart feels that many of the youth that you're blessed to mentor have been impacted by racism, systems-induced trauma, etc. So all of these ways that we can, moment by moment, decolonize our own minds. There's a slide coming up on that through mindfulness. This is what all of us are blessed to do as helping professionals. And I highly encourage you to create spaces to cry. Crying, research and science have proved how powerful and beneficial for us it is to cry. It is not a weakness. That is a sad lie, a tragic lie. In my perspective, I definitely grew up hearing big boys don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. And big boys should cry. We should all cry. And so when we do, we're releasing the serotonin in our brain when we're crying. So I love Dr. Brene Brown, her 20 years of research on shame and vulnerability, but the greatest measure of courage is vulnerability. So please consider creating spaces with your young men that you, if you're comfortable with it, modeling vulnerability because you're modeling courage, and there is a sacredness with crying with each other when we're hurting. And there's no one here or anywhere in the world that doesn't understand a broken heart, and nobody gets out of here alive. So from my perspective, we're all grieving, we're all healing, we're all hurting, and we need each other. Heart Math. I'm a nationally trained certifier in coherence advantage with Heart Math. This was an epiphany for me, life-changing for me when I found out about Heart Math. It's the brain and the heart. 30 years of research all over the world. 30 years of research proving the brain in the heart is far greater than the brain in the head. The brain in the head, the energy extends 3 inches away from our head. The brain in our heart, the energy, what they've proven through all the research, extends 3 feet around us. And they have these 3-minute heart focus breathing techniques that you can do. There's guided ones. You can click on the link here. And what the research proves that just 3 minutes a day, literally, of evidence is mind-blowing, of heart-focused breathing techniques where you're really just visualizing breathing through the brain in your heart, inhalation, exhalation. You are accessing up to 1,400 neurotransmitters in the brain, releasing serotonin and dopamine, and up to 40,000 neurodendrites, which are brain cells around the heart. And that's for the next several hours, from 3 minutes a day. Breathing is your most expedient soothing strategy if you are ever angry or anxious or activated. And certainly with any of your youth, if you can tell they're activated, please invite them just to sit and breathe with you. Even 6 deep, long breaths will help regulate a dysregulated brain. So I highly encourage you to hop on the Heart Math Institute website at your convenience. You could invite your mentees to sit and watch a video with you and do a heart-focused breathing. They have some animated ones that are for the little children. Because you have to breathe, and if you don't breathe, you're not alive. So intentional breathing is your most expedient soothing strategy. Wanted to put this in if there's something tactical, practical that you wanted to literally have at your fingertips. I think one that you've seen before is the mindfulness coloring pages. You can get those free online. Have some colored pencils with you. Anything, the research came out about 3, 4 years ago that doodling is so beneficial for our brain. I know when I grew up, you got in trouble because the teacher didn't think you were paying attention. And what the research proves that when you're doodling, is anything you do with repetition, tapping, drumming, praying, chanting, coloring, you're doing it in repetition, you're soothing dysregulation. So here's some possibilities for your self-soothing kit. I know some people aren't comfortable sitting in silence. This is one of my self-care practices, and I find now I do it every day. I have to just sit in silence. We are inundated in the social media realm of TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and emails and text messages, and it's just an energy that's just constant. And when I sit in silence, research and science are really proving how I'm really adding gray matter to my brain. Listening to our body is so important. You've all heard of body scans. There's all these kinds of guided meditations, sitting in silence. And I've had some people tell me that I'm too anxious. I can't sit in silence, and then I feel anxious about trying to be sitting in silence. So, do whatever feels peaceful and right for you and your well-being. This is so cool. So I just learned about this in the first Friday in December. So I've only known this 2 months. The research, which now has been around 10 years, and I'm telling everyone about it. So the vicarious resilience. So the research of 10 years now is proving, and this is a PubMed on the National Institute of Health website, the link to it, that when we are with who we're serving as helping professionals, whether we're social workers, child welfare, teachers, mentors like all of you, how we benefit, we build resilient muscles by observing, mentoring, and supporting who we serve. And I thought, oh my goodness, because we've heard vicarious trauma for years and years and years. Well, now there's research out there about vicarious resilience. And so, how beautiful is that of humanizing our spaces together, that the youth that you're mentoring are also supporting everyone in your well being? And you can see some of these dot points here, client inspired hope. It's just was really amazing for me. Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez came to our San Diego Trauma Informed Guide team, and she's coming back in June, the first Friday in June. If any of you or your youth want to join, it's a hybrid meeting. She'll be doing a whole hour presentation just on vicarious resilience. She trains law enforcement, human trafficking victims, domestic violence survivors. She's got a therapy clinic in Chula Vista and Bonita, and she's the new incoming president of the San Diego Domestic Violence Council. Wonderful human being. All right, another pair share, please. 4 minutes with a 1 minute closeout. So please share with each other a couple of resilience building and healing centered practices that you have integrated for your well-being. And I hope you have a really meaningful pair share. I think I saw one more who's alone. Nope. Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I moved Dan to group 3.
Now, curious, because I'd never heard of it before 2 months ago. Have you ever heard of vicarious resilience?
I have not.
I know, right? And it just makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
Yeah. I might have heard something that's similar to it, and I can't remember if it was called that.
Is it time? Just, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is a timer on? Oh,
Thank you for reminding.
oh, no worries, no worries. Because I must be a new thing on Zoom. I noticed that it's got a little timer down the bottom that I went, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's if you go to apps, you can basically download a in Zoom or an in-app timer, and so you just run a timer.
Oh, okay. So I apologize. You were sharing that you had heard about something similar to vicarious resilience.
Yeah, I was I think I had learned it when I was getting my teaching credential. And so it was relevant to a lot of the multicultural aspects in the classroom. So um um or at least I learned something that I felt was similar, but I don't think that we went into too much depth about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I'm including it in everything I do now because it's that balance,
Hmm.
which is so important. Yeah, to be strengths based and not just deficit based. And
Yeah. Um, there's a lot revolving around resiliency that I feel like we don't know yet, you know.
hmm well, you know what's fascinating about that? So when I was traveling pre-COVID quite a bit, I was up in Ventura for a big event, and the presenter there was presenting on resilience. I did not know until that day. Resilience research started in Hawaii at exactly the same time as the ACE study.
Hmm.
And that was released in May of 1998.
Wow.
But it doesn't become mainstream. You know, it's just so interesting to me that well, even like vicarious resilience, I heard about it first time 2 months ago, and we were looking it up. So, oh my gosh, they've been researching this for 10 years.
Yeah, I do know that a lot of in a lot of the men's work and well, especially in the work that we do with Boys to Men, that um the the healing happens on both sides. And
Yep.
so, you know, whenever I talk whenever I'm interviewing potential mentors, you know, I'm getting a a beat on what their struggles were, what their challenges were growing up, because those are opportunities for them to do the healing around that when they share those things with the boys that are going through that
hmm
struggle right now. So it
hmm
gives them an opportunity to really let go of some of that weight, and then also help, you know, somebody else. And in helping somebody else, that healing happens for them too, because they get to see themselves in this
Yep.
boy. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful model because look at they're modeling vulnerability.
Hmm.
They're creating a space for deepening relationships. They're
Hmm.
trust building.
Yeah.
Everything about that is so trauma responsive. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, vulnerability is such a huge key for anything that we do. There's a workshop uh, that we run for the mentors called Reclaiming Your Teenage Fire,
Hmm.
and it's about um, revisiting the challenges that we had as teenagers and remembering what it was like to be a teenager and what it was like to have those challenges, and then remind ourselves that when we sit in these circles, these boys are going through that struggle right now.
Yep.
And so when we're able to tap into that, it gives us the opportunity to be more vulnerable with them and ourselves, because, you know, in recognizing that they're going through the challenges that we're going through, it it allows us to be a little bit more a little bit easier on ourselves, and just remind ourselves, you
Absolutely.
know, we were kids back then. We were all children, and they're going through that struggle and they're confused. We went through that struggle and we were confused. And as adults, it's so easy to forget that. And
Yep.
tapping back into it is so key.
Yep. Yeah. You have beautifully articulated humanizing our spaces together.
Hmm.
Beautifully. Is that San Diego County or the entire national network methodology?
I would hope that it's the national methodology. We're as an organization, we're kind of um separate in our chapters, but as far as San Diego, that is definitely a key factor in the way that we manage our
Beautiful.
groups. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's so good. And
Well,
even
thank
if
you.
those young men don't say a word,
Hmm.
they're absorbing
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
feeling of being seen, acknowledged, and heard and respected. That's just beautiful.
yeah, they get to see that, you know, there's somebody else going through a similar thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
okay, hang on. Every time I come back from a pair share, there's this conversation going on, and I'm going, what am I missing?
What's going on?
What is going on while I'm in here that I'm missing out here?
Oh, Joe, you're
Jump in,
adorable.
Joe.
Enrique, yeah, brother? Yeah.
Well, let me give you a shout out, all of you, because Tam and I were just chatting, and he was sharing about the circles that you have and how all the mentors are trained to model vulnerability and share aspects of your life that you feel comfortable sharing. You know, when you went through a teenage and those, you know, that modeling, that humanizing of our spaces together. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And so I was asking him, I said, is that like a national methodology, or is that just San Diego County? He goes, well, I'm not sure about national, but absolutely San Diego County. So, I mean, really, I just feel lucky to be here tonight because you're already all doing all this. So you have already humanized you. I'm so blown away with Voice to Men. So that's what we were chatting about, Joe.
You know,
Okay, well,
we don't even make any progress with the boys until we do that, because that's the only time they'll open up and start talking.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and you're modeling,
Yeah.
modeling. And so that gives him hope and builds connection and deepens trust. And
And you know, I was just talking to Mark about this, and then and the other critical thing that we do is like we're there to witness them, you know, and we're there to validate their feelings, and with and honor their courage, and because we're not going to change anything about what they're going through, but at least they've got this community
yeah,
that's witnessing and validating and honoring them as they go through it.
yeah,
And that makes a difference.
absolutely. That
You know,
sense of
we can-
belonging.
If
Yep.
that's the only skill we can give another mentor to take into the circle, is your job is to witness and validate and say things like, I can't imagine. You're such a courageous young man. I learn a lot listening and watching you. These just those kinds of little things without doing any facilitation or offering any, just being present is super powerful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Bless you so much for sharing that, Jill. Whoops. So becoming our last learning objective, we'll have one more pair share, and then we're going to open up to the room, and we're going to end on time out of respect for your time. So becoming anti-racist and accomplice with humanizing our spaces together. And what a perfect segue, because that's exactly what we were just talking about. So Joel, thank you for bringing up that question, because what a perfect segue to this learning objective. So how do we do this? How do we deepen trust? How do we build connection? Authentic? You're already doing it. You just articulated your model is all kudos. I'm getting angel hugs. Kudos, bless every one of you. You are all ready. This is your model. You're already humanizing. Same 200 people in LA. We asked, well, what's community healing? And same process. They put it on a Post-it note. David Kashankar created this beautiful word cloud. And this represents you. This is you. You are all, every one of you are all over this word cloud of that sense of belonging, acknowledgement, validation. This is another video that you hopefully watched, Dr. Jeff Duncan Andrade. And he says we have to be proximate. We have to be in the barrio. We have to be in the hood. We have to be in the church, in the mosque, in the home. We have to walk the streets. We have to be in the schools. It's not you come to us, you know, we come to you, and we are ethnographers. It's not culture responsiveness, it's community responsiveness. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. It's a fabulous Dr. Jeff Duncan Andrade. I love this, Dr. Michael Yellowbird. We have to decolonize this because we're steeped in colonization. And so this is a 14-minute, like 8-second. You'll find hours and hours and hours from Dr. Michael Yellowbird. This one I love because it's short. It's very succinct. And it's really decolonizing our mind and really healing this through mindfulness. And he speaks to all of it with nutrition and exercise, and it's just gorgeous. I love his work and love to lift up his work any opportunity possible. And then I've got this one here that I know I didn't find this one, but I've got the Becoming an Anti-Racist and Dr. Kendi. And I love this because and then I've got this one facilitator's guide for white affinity groups as a white person. I thought this was fabulous that Dr. Kendi's has the study guide on how to be an anti-racist that aligns with his book on the left. And then how cool how to be a young anti-racist, possibly consider, could there be a book study club of a paragraph or a chapter in a month, or that could be with your mentees. So as I was preparing the slides for tonight, I hadn't seen this one on the right before, and I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be an incredible, well-guided opportunity with a book study for your consideration? And so an ally, as I mentioned before, I'm very humbled and honored. I'm an ally with several tribal nations in San Diego County, California, and around the nation, and I'm absolutely an accomplice. I want to stand up. I want to show up. I want to take action. And be a co-conspirator and conspire with tribal nations on how we decolonize. And there's a lot of momentum and synergy that is happening with that. I briefly mentioned it to Tam in one of the breakouts that I'm blessed to, along with a colleague of mine, Craig Beswick, we're leading 7 counties in California that align with 5 other counties, and all the 12 counties, cross-sector, it's all free for anybody who wants to be part of it. It's a California Collective Impact Cooperative of Communities Decolonization Model. So we have a lot of people that are having these kind of deep-rooted dialogue and shared learning opportunities. And if any of you, Franco, I will be adding you, and Tam said to add you to the master listserv. If you want to be at a minimum in the know, I'd be thrilled, because we ultimately need millions of us to ignite a tipping point. And once you ignite a tipping point, which my understanding is that's roughly 30% of anything, once you ignite that, it's like the 100th monkey theory, it's going to take on a life of its own. So California has an option. I don't get fired for having these kind of conversations. In other states, I could get fired. So we can have them here, and we are having them here. And I'm humbled and honored to be able to use my unearned privilege to help support that. So our last, and how are we doing on time? Because I really want to respect everyone's time. Oh boy. Okay, 7:17. What, Tam, what do you think? Should we leave it open with the whole room right now? Do you want everyone?
Is this the last share?
This is the last pair share, and then we're about 20. I mean, we're about what, 15 minutes less of ending. 12.
Let's share it. Let's share together.
Okay. So I just wanted to share. I love Benjamin. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected as outraged as those who are. So please share, if you'd like to, voice and choice. Please share, how are you becoming an ally and accomplice with the communities you're engaged with, or how, and I've already heard a lot of this tonight, how is Boys to Men mentoring humanizing the culture of your organization?
Well, I've only been with Boys to Men for a couple of weeks now, so.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I
Welcome.
don't have the experience or the wisdom that the majority of these gentlemen have. But I'd just like to share that from my perspective, the last thought that really stuck out to me was community healing, and Joe and I had an opportunity to speak to the fact that how critically important it is that all of us acknowledge the realities that most of these young men are going home to, and in many cases validate their experience, but also demonstrate to them that there are other options for them in terms of personal choices. So I'm very excited to be a part of this organization, and it's exactly what I was looking for in terms of my opportunity to hopefully make a difference in a young person.
Aww.
So
Beautiful.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I love that. It's a very inclusive community, and we're all coming together and working together to tackle this this really big issue that we have where we have a lot of underserved communities and a lot of boys that are that don't have male role models, and it takes a village, and sometimes we've got to take the village to them, and that's what we're doing here.
Thank you, Tim.
So Francisco here, and way we humanize and are accepting of all cultures, ethnicities at Boys to Men is simply by communicating about it, talking about it, having the conversations.
Mhm.
What have you seen in your communities? You know, when it comes to discrimination and racism, how did that feel? You know, have you ever participated? You know, and you kind of have to ask twice. Have you really never participated? And you see hands kind of like, yeah, you know, well, because you know, or you know, have you seen it in the household? And we do it in a vulnerable way. You know, it's a little difficult. You know, and we have young men, or you know, black young men. We have Mexican young men. We got you know, Caucasians, Asians, all ethnicities, religions, and we have the topic of sometimes, you know, at Christmas time we'll ask some of our boys who are of the Islam faith, you know, how, you know, what are their traditions? What does that look like? What do they celebrate? And collectively we talk about it and we learn about one another and we get to see each other, you know, for who we really are. And that's how we at Boys to Men have been doing it. That's how I've been doing it. It's by having the tough conversations in the circles.
Yeah, you beautifully articulated showing up your authentic self, modeling vulnerability, and building trust. It's beautiful. Thank you, Francisco.
And I'm getting 2 lesson patterns. I think the way as a whole, Mr. Man is being an ally and accomplice is anytime that we go into school, whenever we meet with the counselors, principals, we are mindful and always intentful to ask what the racial demographic in the school is. So we intentfully put in men who are from that background,
Oh,
and as well as bringing in diversity into the group. It doesn't just have to be all the mentors have to look a certain way just because of the way that the students look at that particular school, but we also bring diversity so they get different perspectives. And with these types of training, it allows the men to really experience what it's like to be in those communities, you know, experiencing what the boys are experiencing. So I think that really is impactful in the circles to have a representation.
yeah. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, my role as the mentor coordinator is to not just place men in whatever schools are available or whatever is just closest to them, but to find opportunities for there to be, you know, that voice that is needed in these circles. I mean, these boys need not just the men that are in their communities to show up and represent for them, but they need to see other faces that they may not have a similar perspective, and see that there are other opportunities out there, that there are other viewpoints out there that maybe are going to give them insight into their trajectory in the world, and it opens up you know, their ability to navigate their own spaces with new tools that they maybe never have thought of. And so we need not just the representatives of that particular community, but we need new faces and new perspectives as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful because you've really lifted up nurturing a growth mindset and expanding what, like you shared, that worldview and how they view the world now. So that's beautiful.
Especially if they've had a generational challenge,
Hmm.
especially. So
I,
building
I,
on what Tom just said.
I know that, Craig and I have always been very, very intentional about the facilitators that we hire to bring in, you know, diverse men of color and have them in these leadership roles, because the majority of our volunteer mentors are our white grandfathers, and it's and God bless our white grandfathers, John Murray. Thank you very much. And but the boys need a reflection of themselves in these leadership roles, and our facilitators, certainly know how to command a room and be able to check, the mentors that are there to, fix or rescue or give advice or project. And we call that frap. We're not there to frap. We're not there to fix, rescue, give advice or project. And the facilitators can stop a guy that's dropping into that and say, okay, what's your story? We're not, don't assume you know anything about this young man. What's your story, and that we're there to experience, share our experience, strength, and hope, and not tell them what to do, just tell them what we've done. And I think that also, but that when we get into our stories and we get down into our grief and we get into our pain and we get into this transcending place of the human experience, we get into our humanity. And so when you've got a young Black kid who's grieving that his parents are getting a divorce, and a white kid and a Hispanic kid can come put their hand on his shoulder and talk about their pain when their parents got divorced, and understand that human connection. I think that Boyz II Men is really good at creating that, as well as respecting the culture, and like you said, coming to the community, building the community by being a part of the community. And yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah,
That's so
I want to throw in 2 cents there. Even now, I find that a lot of boys are still culturalized to be warriors, conquerors, even the military and all that, right? So one of the foundational models that we use is the Jungian male archetypes, the 4 male archetypes: king, warrior, lover, magician. And we speak to that in the context of each one of those male archetypes has a time and a place, has a dark side, has a light side. And the better they understand which archetype they're showing up with, or they understand that aspect of themselves when they are being lover, when they're being warrior, when they're being king or magician, then they get to know themselves better, and then they can better manage how they show up in given situations. But that model is one of the foundational tools that we use to help them know themselves and learn about themselves more.
beautiful. Love the frap. That's amazing. Modeling, so good. You're already all humanizing your spaces together. I feel like I'm the learner here. Very hopeful.
I'd like to jump in and piggyback on really everyone. So it's important about representation. So I'm speaking as an Asian American. And I think I'm representing the 1% in the group right now. So in any case, racial mirrors, genetic mirrors, and something that I continue to bring up from one of our facilitators is that as mentors, as facilitators, we're cleaning our own mirrors, we're polishing our own mirrors, we're clearing away what we bring, so we're not frapping, right, Joe? We don't bring our own projections into the circles that we sit with the boys. So there's a lot of mirroring that goes on between racial, genetic, and the ongoing practice of removing the scratches and dust off of our own mirrors. And I just wanted to bring that in about that piece. Being with Boyz II Men this last year has been a human piece. It doesn't matter our backgrounds and what we all come with something from our own lives, from our own lived experiences. And it's neat when we are in these groups, and we just speak to that. We speak to what we've experienced in our own lives and this ongoing practice of having to clear off our own mirrors. So wanted to throw that in there as a special thing about Boys to Men for me.
Thank you, Moses.
Oh,
Well, what do you think? We're at 7:29. You want the gift of time? 1 minute?
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much.
Much love and much light, truly, surrounding every single one of you. I mean that with every fiber of my soul. You're saving lives. You're transforming futures. You're modeling. I just continue to be blown away by Boys to Men, and that's because of every single one of you. So much love and light surrounding you. Bless you for what you do, and have a really rejuvenating rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Noah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Dan.
Okay.
Thank you again, Dana.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Good to see
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank
Dana.
you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
night.
so much, Dana. Till next
Yeah,
time.
good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Night.
You're an angel, Dana.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Norman.
All right.
What's up?
thanks,
I always like to stick around until the end and see who.
guys.
the last
Yeah, see who
guys.
sticks around. Yeah, for
Hey,
sure.
Yeah.
Morty crew.
All right.
Recognize. I recognize.
Much love, guys.
Yeah, take care.
Lily saw you
Oh,
and
hi,
she was like, "Is
Lily.
that Aaron on the screen?"
Hey, what's up, Lily Buns? Hi, baby. Love
Much
you.
love, guys.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night.
All right, night.